hello to all of those smiling faces that are joining us this morning.
Good afternoon. Hi.
Oh my gracious, I have folks in this audience that I haven't seen since high school. I have two high school friends right here, Ann and Samantha. Hi. Crazy. I see you, Coach Cassandra. You're dialing in from the phone. We got you. Hello, Marcia.
Hey,
Steph.
Marcia.
Hey there.
Surprise, surprise.
Yes.
I think that's Tamika and Sherry. Hello, Stefan.
Good morning. Hello, everybody.
Good morning.
Hi.
Hello, Miss
Hi.
Jenkins. Hey, Tamika.
Hi, Nancy. Hi, everybody.
Really good. All right. Well, we are going to get started, although I'm sure we will have others that will join us as we go along here. But this session is being recorded for those of you who did not hear that message at the beginning. Just want to make sure you're aware of that. I am so thrilled to welcome you to the first of our Genuine Talk series, and our topic is balancing it all. And I have some wonderful friends that I'm excited to share with you here today on this topic. But I will just start by saying, many of us wear multiple hats. We're corporate employees, we're entrepreneurs, we're moms, we're wives, we're sisters, we're
So
instructors,
clever. Clever. Do you want to watch this with me?
we are volunteers, and then there are some hats that we didn't consciously put on our heads, right? So caretaker, confidant, community leader, maybe mentor, sponsor, uh, now teacher, we can add to our list as some of us are realizing, well, many of us appreciated our teachers always, but we've got a special appreciation for them as we're trying to balance things at home through this pandemic. So there is beauty and real power, right, in wearing multiple hats, and we're able to influence the world around us and the support and care for those people and those things that matter to us most. So it's really important, but it can also come at a price, right? It can come at a price of burnout. Burnout is real. Mental and physical exhaustion is a risk. Self-care can take a back seat because there just aren't enough hours in the day to balance all of those things. So the challenge of balance is universal. Our intention today is to share some strategies for finding that ever elusive work-life balance. I've heard some people say we need to stop looking for balance and we need to focus on work-life integration. I would just say whatever we call it, right? We have to consciously make the decision to not get lost in it all, which is why I'm so excited to share this virtual stage with three amazing and dynamic women who I would tell you they make it look easy. And of course, we know there's nothing easy about any of it. So they've agreed to join us for our genuine talk, an open and an honest discussion, and to share some of their best strategies. So let's start by getting to know a bit more about these women, and then we'll jump into the discussion. And I'm just going to ask them to share a little bit about themselves, a bit of an introduction, and I'll just go in alphabetical order. So Julia, do you want to get us started?
Oh, perfect. No pressure. Hi, how's everyone doing? Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. And Nancy, thank you so much for thinking of me and including me in this discussion. It's actually funny because this area of discussion is something I'm particularly passionate about. A little bit about myself. I'm actually from Chicago, Illinois. I have a background in biotech chemical science. So I worked as a analyst in research and development for a number of years, but I'm a people-centered type individual. So I love opportunities where I can really engage in community and feel like I'm having some tangible impact. So it resulted in me jumping into philanthropy for a number of years, where I had this amazing opportunity to be a nonprofit consultant. I did program or nonprofit evaluation. I managed grant programming, and the latest was being a part of this amazing statewide program in the state of Minnesota, where we focused on promoting health and wellness for our kids and families. That was like one of my pivotal, most enjoyable experiences. Right now, I am in corporate. I'm at in the financial institution or financial industry, I apologize. And my focus is around enterprise strategies. So I've worked on some really cool national programs or projects, particularly a consumer initiative that really looked at how do we engage our diverse marketplace more authentically. And then right now, I'm really looking at how do we use design thinking to build out opportunities to build business strategies that improve not only our customers' experiences, but also our employees' experiences at the bank. In terms of my roles, it's really interesting, Nancy, bringing that up. You know, I see myself, you know, of course, as this professional woman, but I'm also a yogi. I teach yoga. I'm passionate again about human-centered work. So I am on the VP for the Women's BRG board. And in the past, I've been on the boards of various nonprofits. I definitely have a strong passion for how can we make this world a better place for everyone to thrive. But as Nancy mentioned, how do you balance it all, right? And how do you find that way of integrating all your passions in life so that not only are you being fulfilled and you're helping others, but you're not being burnt out at the end of the day?
That's awesome. Thank you so much for that great introduction, Joya. Lisa, you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Afternoon or morning, wherever, depending on where you are. I am Lisa Medley. So I am an executive coach and an emerging entrepreneur. And I stress that because I'm in the building phase. And so that's a big hat that I'm wearing. I am also a corporate professional. So I work in the financial industry as well. Full time. I am a mother of 5, and I'm a caretaker, kind of mini caretaker to my mom, who's 92. Now she is, relatively speaking, fairly independent. So, you know, that's the mini part. Those are my primary hats. I am in this space. I'm always looking to learn, and I'm always looking to share. And so I am so fortunate and thankful to be a part of the platform, to be a part of the conversation. I'm looking forward to learning and sharing.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I had to raise an eyebrow when you said mini hat, because I'm not sure taking care of mom is a mini hat. I'll tell you, taking care of dad. Maybe mom's less high maintenance than my dad, but that's not a mini hat by any definition, I don't think. But thank you for being here, Lisa. So Manishan, would you like to introduce yourself to the group?
I would be happy to. Thank you, Nancy. And what an honor to be here with you today. And hello, everybody. I am calling in from Minneapolis, Minnesota, but I am originally from Winnipeg, Manitoba in Canada. Any Canadians in the room? Not yet. But happy to be here. I am a 24-year veteran, also in the financial industry, and I started with the company the same year I graduated from college, and I've been here in the United States just as long. So I am also a mother of 4 children. Age ranges from 7 to 22, and my 7-year-old also has an intellectual disability. So juggling and learning and trying to be a better mother every day while working full time. So you can imagine lots of balancing that I have to do, but very fortunate to have a partner that helps me out both, you know, at home and in every aspect that I need support with. So other things I want to share, I am a dragon boat paddler, champion our team came in first place. I've been racing for 15 years. Last year, we actually came in first place. And this year, it got canceled. So undefeated champion for 2 years. Let's say that. And I'm starting to get into exercising because as I've gotten older, I'm noticing that it takes a lot more work to be able to stay at the weight where I can fit into my clothes. And I prefer to keep my clothes versus, buying new ones. So today I just made a record, for the most calories in road biking, and just trying to find, new ways to be able to keep myself active, keep my mind sharp, and be able to really, do it all, because I hate to sit still. I don't like to not have anything to do. I like to stay busy. I love people. I have a degree in chemistry, and I challenged myself throughout my educational career to get into courses and classes that was going to challenge me, so that in the future, whatever I decide to do was going to be something that I love. And I'm in the financial industry because I love people. I love helping people find financial freedom. And I do that part-time as a volunteer role with a local nonprofit organization here in the Twin Cities area. And I'm also on a board of that local nonprofit. So lots of fun things that we can chat about today. Thank you,
Awesome.
Nancy.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And again, thank you to all three of you for being here. So let's go ahead and jump in, and let's just level set and start with the definition of balance. So balance can mean different things to different people, of course. But could the three of you share, what does success in this area look and feel like to you?
Well, I'll go. Success is relative, I guess, but for me, it is making sure all of the people and or things I'm responsible for, functions, responsibilities, or whatnot, making sure each of those things get the right amount of attention at the right time. So some people call it not dropping balls, but I don't I don't know that I can give everything or everyone equal attention. I know that I can work to give those people and the things that I do or the things that I'm responsible for the right amount of attention at the right time, so that I can achieve, they can achieve, or whatever it is, we accomplish that goal.
Yeah, I love that. It reminds me of the analogy, and I come to this often in my own challenge to find balance of, the juggling balls that you referenced just a few moments ago. But, those balls are made of different things. Some of them are glass, and if you drop them, they will break. There's a consequence to that. But some of them are rubber, right? And they'll bounce, and they may bounce a few times if you don't catch it right away. And so that is a little mental exercise that has helped me just think about prioritizing, right? So yeah, we're all juggling, but everything doesn't have to be in the air at the same time. So thanks for that.
Yep.
Manny, you want to go next? What's your definition of success in this space?
I'll add on to what you just shared about balancing balls, right? I think of like our family, our marriage is our glass balls that we have to protect. And then the work is a bouncy ball that, will not break. Even if we step away for a little while, we go back and we can just continue where we left off. So for me, it's about not breaking, letting our glass balls break, the family and the marriage piece of it, because that is really, I think, what keeps us whole and what makes us happy. And that's the reason why we do all the other stuff, to make sure that we can provide shelter for our family, be able to ensure that our heart is protected, and it's just not letting things completely break. So sometimes, you might have a little bit of a crack, but that's okay, right? It's not going to be perfect. I certainly don't have a perfect life. I have fallen on the ground crying, just like crazy when times are tough. And then after, few hours maybe of hysterical crying, I will find a way to get myself up. And I try to remember that whenever we hit a wall, the reason why the wall is there is because there's something that we are desperate for, that we definitely need, and we just need to find a way to overcome that challenge and get over the wall. So it's just staying motivated to continue to move forward, because really that's all we can do. Looking back, we can certainly do that, to look at the things that we've done that maybe we could have done differently, or maybe things that we have done really good at. And for the things that we've done well in, continue to push ourselves, move forward, so that we're always advancing, continuing to learn and better ourselves.
That's awesome. Resiliency, I heard all through that. Thank you so much, Chan. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Julia, when you think about success in this space, what does that look and feel like for you?
Yeah, so I mentioned earlier in the introduction that I consider myself a yogi. So I've been practicing yoga consistently for a number of years, and I've been really definitely delved into incorporating meditation in my practice, in my daily practice, and then just opening the door to going to different workshops and conferences. Why do I bring that up? One of the things that I've really kind of delved into learning through this life, I love life, and I love the process of learning and evolving, knowing that I don't have it all together, and I'll never have it all together, right? I've realized how imperative and important it is for each individual to take that time, whether it's at least on an annual or on a regular basis, to sit down and think about, all those components that my colleagues mentioned that we have to balance in our life. Thinking and then being really honest about ourselves, about what really matters to us, like what will make us feel as though we're fulfilled, we're happy, we're at peace, we have joy. And organizing, like, what is the priority for you at this moment in time, in this year, or in this next few months? I think by taking that time to self-reflect, to journal, to really be honest with yourself on what's really important to you, and what is, as you were mentioning about walls, you just can't drop, you can't let crack, then you can really start being thoughtful about how you prioritize not just your week, but your day and your year. I've heard from my other colleagues that it sounds like we're all achievers, right? We love people, we love learning, we love really pushing ourselves and challenging ourselves. But that wonderful gift that we have at times, if we aren't mindful and thoughtful, we can turn around and reach that burnout point. Mm-hmm. And then that's where your health and wellness can potentially be impacted. And to me, that really signifies like that level of success of being able to balance. If your health and wellness is starting to be impacted by, or is about to be negatively impacted because you're not able to balance things, versus you're able to maintain a healthy lifestyle, or your health, your well-being, mind, body, spirit is whole or maintained as much as possible, then to me that's success. But again, I really feel like it's about the individual, being very honest with what makes you happy, what is your definition of success at the end of the day, and then prioritizing your life around that and not being afraid to say no to things.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you for that. Some really great reminders there. And our bodies do talk to us, right? And tell us when we're not doing a good job at this work. So clearly, each of you has some amazing organizational skills, right? There's just no way to successfully handle as many things as you have on your plates without some sort of organizational skills. But tell us about some of the strategies that you employ. Like when you think about how you maneuver through all those hats, what are some of the strategies you employ to balance it all? Lisa's laughing. Laugh at me, Lisa.
Listen, I am going to speak my piece and get out of the way because I'm probably not the best person for strategy around this. But here it goes. For me, I make lists and and I do these kinds of things, keep spreadsheets and sticky notes and that. For me, it's routine. I need routine. I wake up relatively around the same time. I go walking, I take a shower, I sit down, and I begin my day. And relatively around the same time, I eat, which triggers me to give my mother's medicine, which is a routine right after our meal, which triggers me to, the next thing and the next thing. So I work to create routine. And any new thing I have to do, any new assignment, anything important to me, I work really hard to figure out a routine way for going to tackling that assignment or that work.
That's
so
awesome.
I don't have a lot of other strategies to share. That's kind of my thing. If I can create a routine out of it, it's going to get done.
That's awesome guidance. That is fabulous. Thank you for sharing that. Because I am a list maker. I don't always go back to the list though, right? But there's something magical for me getting it onto a list that then I can kind of go in peace, but then I start to do things not necessarily in the order that they're on the list. So routine, that makes a lot of sense to me. Mana Chan, what about you? What are some of your strategies?
I'm also a list person too. I will list and I will use calendars. So we have a calendar in the kitchen for meals for the whole month. And that helps me stay on track, and we don't have to worry about having a conversation, what's for dinner tonight and what are we shopping for. So because with 4 kids, we're always cooking. We're always, trying to make sure their fridge is stocked and the pantry has snacks and things like that. So having a calendar is incredibly important. And especially during this time when we want to limit the number of times we go to the grocery store, it's helpful to be able to have the list so that I can make fewer visits and I get less exposure when I'm outdoors. I also put a list for the things that I want to be able to achieve on a quarterly basis and check on it. And I make my husband also review it with me because he is not a list person. And he has to sign it to say that he actually acknowledges and will support me, because I know in this work, I cannot do it alone. And that's one thing that I've learned throughout the years is I need help. And if I ask for help, I'm more likely going to get it versus trying to do everything on my own. So I certainly do not try to do anything or everything on my own anymore. That used to be one of the things that I did that really made me feel alone, made me feel burnt out, made me feel frustrated and sad. And so that's one thing I've learned about myself. The other thing too is when I do make a list, I don't put a lot of pressure on myself to get everything done. And like you, Nancy, I don't do it in any particular order. I do look through my list and make sure that I'm prioritizing and getting the most important things done. And then there will be things on a list that if I can get to it, great. If I can't, I will give myself grace that, maybe it just wasn't important, and that's okay. We'll start over again. And when it does become important, I will get to it. So again, just protecting the glass balls, making sure those don't break, but other things can be flexible and they can bounce.
That's awesome. Very awesome. Julia, what would you add to that conversation? What strategies do you use to keep yourself balanced?
I had mentioned about like learning from life, right? And when I was in my younger years, definitely A-type personality. Definitely loved my lists, loved my calendars. Prioritizing on a daily basis, weekly basis, sticking to a routine, those were definitely key components to my success. I would say though, one of the things I started learning about trying to be organized and utilizing all these tools was also what could I realistically accomplish in the day? And I think hearing the comment made about being flexible, I think was really something that I had to learn the hard way earlier on in my career, because I would make my list and I would make my, schedule out my day. And if I didn't stick to my schedule, like my stress would start to build up, right? Because I had the schedule and I had to stick to it at all costs. And if I, for some reason a meeting went over or this unforeseen thing that came up on my list had to take priority over my original list, it would create this anxiety and stress in me, to the point where, I remember trying to stick to all my to-do list, and I wasn't sleeping very much. And so I think at some point by force, just because I was so sleep deprived and exhausted, I had to understand how to adapt and to basically think about what is a priority? What do I really need to get done in the day? Just because I made a list on Monday and I thought like this has to be done on Monday, because if it's not done on Tuesday or Thursday, all these bad things are going to happen. I had to kind of like start taking that step back and realize I'm not going to be perfect. There's no way I can do everything that I planned in advance. You cannot predict the future. There are going to be things that are going to have to fall, right? And you're not going to be able to meet everyone's expectations sometimes, but that's okay. And at the end of the day, the question is like, what are your priorities? What is most important for you? What is going to lead towards happiness, peace, and joy? So basically, I know I wasn't completely answering your question, but I thought it was something that like it was a key learning that I had when I was younger, being so organized, doing everything right, sticking to my to-do list to the point where I wasn't really even sleeping. I would stay up late to like meet all these expectations. And I had to learn the hard way. I have to take a step back. I have to start learning how to say no to things. I have to be okay with going to someone and saying, hey, I know I promised I was going to get this to you today, or I was going to get this done, or I was going to be able to attend this event, but it's just not going to happen today. I apologize. You know what I mean? And like giving yourself that flexibility to not be perfect and to not have it all correct at all times.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I was having some conversation last week with some folks about giving ourselves grace, right? Something that I have to remind myself often. And that turned into a discussion about the messages that may have been ingrained in me as a child, right? And why it's so hard to give myself grace. And certainly I'm not a therapist, so let's just, be really clear that we're not in a therapy session here, but it did feel therapeutic for me to kind of think about, failure's not an option. That is a message that was ingrained in me. And then I think I took that to mean if I committed to someone, then I didn't meet that commitment, then that was failure, which again is not an option, right? So you think about that internal messaging and what you've been taught and told, or what you have believed all of your life. You may have to have some really interesting dialogue with yourself to give yourself that grace and relieve yourself of that. Now, I'm still one, if I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do everything I can to meet that commitment, but I'm a little more careful about what I say I'll do, right? So that I don't put myself in that space. So thank you for that. Heard a lot of goodness there, right? Routine, I think that is key. I'm not great at that, Lisa, so that's good guidance for me. Asking for help, Manichan, boy, that's a struggle for me, right? I ask for help, and then I think the second piece of that is if I ask for help and it's not done the way that I would have done it, I have to realize that's still okay. It got done, right? So if Timothy McRae were on this call, he'd tell you that, that control, well, I would have walked to these 3 steps and you walked to these 3 steps. You still got to where you needed to go. And so I'm growing in that space. And then just being realistic and flexible, Julia, all good things. So I see we have our first question in the chat, and I do want to invite our participants to absolutely come off mute and join us in the conversation, ask questions, or use the chat functionality. That's great as well. So Stephanie Jenkins, one of my favorite people, asks, are lists kept for different environments? So Manny, I think you were talking to us about your great use of lists. I'm in awe that you have your menu for the month scheduled, but do you use different lists, work versus home versus volunteer, those kind of things? Talk to us about that and whether or not you're using a fancy planner, an app. What does that look like for you?
Yes. So at work, I actually have a done list. That's important for me to be able to show the accomplishments that I've had, successes at work I've had. And I used to just have a to-do list, but it seemed like at work the to-do list was just crazy long. And I didn't really know what to highlight for my monthly, accomplishment report and things like that. So at work, there's a done list, and I just have that on my OneNote. And OneNote, if you don't use it, it's just like having a paper and pen, a physical paper and pen, except it's all electronic, and you don't ever have to worry about saving the document, whatever you type in there. When you close out, it's always there. And I love using that tool. The list at home is just on a regular notebook. Whenever there's a sale at the store, there will be a notebook there, and I take advantage of using that. And that's what I have my husband signed with me every quarter to make sure that we're also on target. So that list is more of, what's important for us to be financially successful, what is going to make our family better, happier, and healthier. So more about long-term goal, what do we want to accomplish in 1 year, in 3 years, and in 5 years. On a daily basis, the only other list is that calendar for meals to help us be able to organize ourselves. But I don't make a list for daily at home, like when does laundry need to get done, when, do we have to clean the bathroom, things like that. I will get to it when I get to it, right? No pressure in that area, because that's the one thing where I have to give myself grace on. And when we need clothes, we'll do laundry. Not that we don't do laundry, and that's one of the things I love to do too. So there's no issues there. Yeah, that's how I use my list.
Good perspective. Thank you for that. Julia, I saw you raising your hand. I don't know if that was like an amen kind of raised hand there, but anything you want to add to what Manichan just shared?
No, I love what Manny Chan said, like what she used to do, and then how she course corrected. So I have that list, the to-do list, right? And sometimes we forget to give ourselves that pat on the back on what we did accomplish. You get so caught up on that list and getting through it all, and so you focus. Sometimes we tend to focus on all the things that are wrong about us, or being very self-critical on ourselves. And so what I would start doing, I still do the list, the long to-do one, but I think I'm going to take some notes and follow Manny Chan's advice. But what I started doing was getting a different color pen, usually red colored or pink, like a color I like. And so I'll put a heart next to each thing as I do it, or put a smiley face of all the things that I've accomplished, so that I'm reminding myself, yes, you still have things that you need to get done, but celebrate those wins, celebrate what you did accomplish, right?
Yeah, really good, really good. So let's talk about support structures. So I hear Manichan talking about her husband signing on their quarterly plan, right? Oh, OMG, Tim's in trouble. So tell me about support structures. Those are critically important, no matter how many hats you wear, right? And some of the things that I think about are maybe outsourcing your, cleaning of your home. At the end of this event, I'll need to take this recording and figure out how to get that published. Last time Lisa and I did one of these, I engaged the 13-year-old to make that happen. Guess what? I'll be engaging the 13-year-old to make that happen here as well, right? Because she'll be able to do it in much less time than I will. So when you think about support, what do your support structures look like, and when do you call on those? Oh, I know you have them, ladies. Come on.
I have them. I was waiting not to jump in too quickly. So one of the things I promote is creating a board of directors, a personal board of directors. And for me, that is three spaces, you know, coaches, mentors, sponsors. And I have individuals in those buckets that I call upon periodically, depending on what I am trying to accomplish. These are people that I know and trust. These are people who have sometimes volunteered to help me when I didn't know that I wasn't looking for the help. I wasn't asking for the help, but they saw something in me that said, you need some help. so, so I am a huge advocate for being very intentional about choosing people to help me because I have a lot going on. And sometimes it's family. They're in my network, but I have college professors, you know, folks who have helped me in that collegiate space when I was in graduate school and such, and I just continued the relationship. I have people I've worked with, you, Nancy, you know, for example, that maintain the relationship, and I know I can reach out if I needed something. I have my friend here, Marcia, who has been a godsend these last couple of weeks for me. So it looks different. Who they are and how I use them really depends on the space I'm in. I mentioned being an emerging entrepreneur. Marcia, for example, has been in her business and in the coaching space for 14, 15 years. So who better to, you know, learn from and lean on for that than her? Now, if I were tackling something with my mom, of course, my support looks different. I'm going to call one of my kids. I'm going to call a close friend, you know, something along those lines. So I literally have a structured system of support, and I have people identified for different spaces, and I use them all the time.
So important, so important. And I heard excuse me, I heard Manachan say earlier, right? Like you ask for help when you need it. It really is something that I struggle with. So tell us a little bit more about that, Manachan. And I'm thrilled to hear, Lisa, that you don't have any issues with that, because I do think it's important. I can recognize that. I just haven't figured out how to enact it yet. But Manachan, tell us a little bit more about that and any other support structures you may employ.
So I categorize my support structures in three different areas. Professionally, at work, I have sponsors, mentors, and coaches that I reach out to. And sponsorship is something that I really want to advocate for, because I think this is how I'm able to continue to be successful in my career, 24-year career. Without having a sponsor, I don't think I would be where I am today. I'm working in a line of business that is considered, in the HR line of business, and I support learning and development, that I manage diverse leaders program as well as diversity and inclusion training for 250,000 employees in the company. And so before coming into this role, I was in program marketing, a totally different line of business. And in order for me to have some leverage in a new line of business that I wanted to move to, I needed to call on my support system. So in this situation, it was a sponsor, someone who already was working in that line of business that I've built a relationship with for over the years, someone that can speak on my behalf and call, the hiring manager and just share a little bit about the experiences that they've seen me actually perform. And with that sponsor's support, my one of 80 resumes when the position came open, I definitely believe raised up to the top to get the interest of the hiring manager. And then when I received the opportunity to interview, that's all on me now to pass that interview. But I wouldn't have ever been able to do that without that support system at work. And then at home, I shared with you that my husband is a huge support for me to help handle our household, a crazy household of 3 boys and 1 girl. And my 1 girl is the hardest to raise compared to the boys, because but we can talk about that another time. And then professional growth or personal growth. So outside of work, I continue to try to be a community advocate, a community leader, and that's why I volunteer within a local nonprofit organization so that I can continue to learn about things that I can do outside of work to better improve the community that I live in. And so I look towards the executive director, the other board members, to be able to help me continue to hone my skill in different areas that I don't get to practice on a daily basis in my workplace, and also at home being a mom.
Excellent.
And that is who I call on.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. We do have a question in the chat, so I'm going to alert our panelists to look at that. But Julia, I do want to make sure you've got an opportunity to weigh in here as well, and then we'll come back to that question.
Yeah, I mirror a number of the things that were said. I really love the way Lisa said a board of directors. That was really lovely, the way she described that. But very similar to what both women were talking about in terms of having that support in those different aspects of my life, professional, having mentors, having coaches, friends and family in my personal life that I can turn to. I think the other thing, just to add to that, that's had really played a critical role in my life is my spiritual network. And so having in that structured that time, I believe in this concept of your overall health is established, not just mental health, physical health, but also that spiritual component. And so I do a part of my support structure are those people that have a shared interest or mirror the spiritual practice that I have. And, I can have those conversations, those deeper conversations or those questions with those individuals, all the way from teachers to colleagues who've been practicing, I would guess consider them mentors because they've been practicing way longer than I have. And I can look to them and ask questions and get references on good books or resources to deepen my spiritual practice. But I definitely think that that's such an integral part of not only maintaining health, but being able to also balance life and to have that key support to help you be successful in life.
Yeah, makes good sense. Thank you so much for that. And definitely the spiritual component is one that we've got to keep in mind as well. So if we look at the question from Sherry, thank you for asking it, Sherry. Are there any spaces where you would recommend in finding a mentor or coach? Sometimes LinkedIn isn't enough. And then Anissa asked before that, are your support systems written, or do you just know who to go to for what? So, Lisa, let me jump back to you for your take on either one of those.
So Anissa's question is top of mind because you said that one last. So
Okay.
I don't always write them out. I used to. I used to have a picture of a board, my version of a boardroom table and chairs, and I had little names, and it was helpful while I was adopting or adapting to the system. It was helpful to write them out so I could, and it's probably a good idea to go back to it because I could look across the names and see from a diversity perspective. I could see, do I have too many men or not enough women, or do I have any millennials, or is everybody my age, So you can kind of really see. So I recommend, even though I don't practice it all the time, if you're getting started, write them out, create your buckets, put your names in your buckets, and even put, male, female, black, white, Asian, Hispanic or whatever. So you can see how diverse your board is, because that's a really important aspect of it.
Mm-hmm.
What was the other, what was the?
The other question was, where do you recommend finding a mentor or coach? Sometimes LinkedIn just doesn't seem like it's.
Oh. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. I think for me, it's always been someone I know, or, so I might say, Manishan, I am trying to do X. I know you're in that space. Would you happen to know anybody who might be a good option for me to talk to about mentoring? So I either know somebody directly and reach out, they know me directly and they come to me, or I ask someone for a recommendation.
Yeah.
Can I weigh in on that, if you don't mind?
Yeah.
People I'm a type of person, I love people to the point where I love that whole process of going and exploring and meeting new people and getting to know them. And so it's something that's just always naturally come to me, and has really helped me in my career in terms of networking and getting to know people. I mean, Nancy, the way I met you is I approached you and spoke to you and acknowledged, some things that I heard you said at an event that really touched me, right? And one of the key things that, by me having that courage, right, number one, to approach you, I didn't know you, no one was around to refer me to you, but there was something that you said that touched me and resonated with me, and I went to you and I told you, and I was authentic with it, with my feelings, right? And there was something natural that came between us, right? It was we naturally liked each other. It was natural to connect with each other. It was natural for me to follow up with you over time, and for us to build that relationship. And something that I've told people who identify themselves as introverts or don't like people or find it difficult to just introduce themselves to people. I want to emphasize it because it's been very helpful for me. Just not trying to force anything. If you see someone and you really respect what they're doing, or you look up to them, or you're really inspired by what they've said or done, send that note. Tell them why you're reaching out. Approach them. Tell them why you're approaching them and what they did impacted you. And if there's a natural chemistry between you two, that is the mentor you want. That is the coach you want. Someone where it's a natural relationship and you're not forcing it, because you're not going to benefit from it if you're forcing any type of relationship.
Love it. Love it. Absolutely. Absolutely. Sound words. It's actually a really perfect segue. Our next Genuine Talk is all about networking. I would tell you I'm not very good at it. I am so thankful that Julia came up to me after I exited Stage Right at that event, and we started to talk. And she's absolutely right? It was a natural kind of relationship. The same thing with Lisa, the same thing with Manichan, the same thing with Carmen, who will be my guest at our next Genuine Talk to talk about exactly that thing. There are some folks who that is very natural for. There are some of us who kind of dread walking into a room of strangers, right? I love a deep down conversation. I love this space right here, right? But saying hello, I don't know, it puts a lump in my throat. So it's really good, and we'll have a whole topic on that. But thank you, Julia. That's really good, because the natural and the genuine conversation, right? The authentic kind of connection is then where that magic happens. Awesome. Manichan, anything you want to add to either one of those? We're kind of talking about two different things here, right? About finding a mentor or sponsor, or now I've lost myself altogether in what the other question was. Oh, or
To write them
knowing
down.
their support systems. Do you write those down? Are you really formal with that?
I did an exercise when I went through a leadership development program 5 years ago, and I did write down, who could be my coach, my mentor, my sponsors, and looked at the diversity of everybody in my circle. Just like what you had shared, Lisa. Do I have someone that represents various diversity segments? That was very important for me to have, and doing that exercise opened my eyes to the fact that I have more women in my circle than I do have men. And I realized that I also need to get white men in my circles to help me to be able to continue to grow, because there's a lot of things that I can learn from them, as well as things that maybe I can teach them as well. And, and since then I have been able to add some more or new mentors and sponsors within my circle. But yes, writing it down was a great way to be able to really see and analyze who was in my network. And I have tried the like a program that would assign you a mentee. I was a mentor in that program, and those are okay, but when we think about genuine conversations and genuine relationships, it only goes so far, right? I can share, what I do, how to do it, but our relationship really didn't last after that. The ones I think that really last are the ones that come up through networking, through relationships. So I would recommend, putting your time and effort into building a mentor or sponsorship relationship naturally, and making a relationship with that person, and then later on asking them to be your formal mentor or sponsor or coach.
Yep, perfect. Great guidance. And I'm just going to go back to, you touched on it and Lisa brought it up earlier, the idea of a diverse personal board of directors, or whatever you choose to call that group of trusted advisors in your life. It is really, really important to make sure that that's a diverse group of individuals, and going through that exercise, right? And just kind of putting it on paper to see what does that look like, glaringly brings out those gaps. And then you start to take the steps to fill those gaps, right? Because it's critically important. Lisa and I did, through Lisa's coaching business, we had a whole conversation about mentoring versus sponsoring. And so that is something that you could find on her LinkedIn page or mine, the replay too. Really good discussion there, and also some practical advice. So that just felt like another natural segue to all the work that my friends here are doing. So if we look at the chat, there's another question out there for us. When looking for a mentor, would you suggest having a plan for what you would like from them when you approach them? And that's from my friend Terry. Lisa, you're shaking your head.
Oh my gosh, yes. Yes, you gotta have a plan. Folks are busy, right? And as nice as people want to be, and as people want to help. I can't think of a person that I've ever worked to build any relationship with for the purpose of mentoring or sponsorship, or that has turned me away and said, no, this is absolutely not a good time. So that's not ever for me been the issue, but you do need a plan. You need to understand who they are, and why you're interested in their mentorship or their sponsorship or whatever, what they bring to the relationship and what you bring to them, because it's two ways. You can't just go and keep drawing from the well and never giving back. So the plan, yes, you need a plan. You need to be clear on how that person might contribute to your growth, your development, your goal. And then you need to understand yourself in the relationship, what you're going to bring, and how that's, how you see it all playing out, and share it. Make sure they understand that, hey, and you may have questions. Maybe you can't do a lot of research around the person, but you can go and say, hey, I need this, and tell me a little bit about your experience here, or help me understand, if this is kind of your wheelhouse.
Yeah, excellent advice. Well, guys, I'm watching the clock, trying to be a good timekeeper. We're at 5 minutes till the top of the hour. So what I want to do is, first and foremost, just thank all of our participants for joining us and joining into the conversation, being part of the conversation. Thank you for your questions and your comments in the chat. I certainly want to thank our panelists, you women. You know that I just think the world of each of you individually and now collectively. You are just amazingly inspirational to me, and now I'm sure all of these folks who have heard you speak. I'd love to give you the opportunity to just leave our participants with one piece of advice or call to action that they might find helpful in their journey. So if you wanted them to take away one thing today, what would that be?
I would just say that, life is not a fairy tale. We cannot be perfect. I had watched a video where they compared humans to a Audi A8, that a car is meant to drive incredibly fast and have great performance, right? But humans cannot do one thing alone. There are some athletes that spend all their time exercising to be at their best, but they're also making tons of sacrifices. So that is not considered work-life balance. So just remember to know that you can fall down. You can fall down and scream for life. You can cry, for a couple hours, but then you're going to get up. And if you want happiness, we have to depend on ourselves. And just remember to reach out to your network to be able to support you, and you will get there.
That's awesome. Thank you for that, Manichan. Julia, what do you want to leave our group with today?
This is an interesting time in our lives. I was telling a colleague the other day, I don't know how you can walk out of 2020 without truly being connected or having a true sense of your humanity. Nothing can be planned, nothing can be controlled, right? Generally speaking, you can control how you react to the world around you, but you can't truly control the world around you, right? You can organize it, you can have the tools, you can identify your board of directors, you can have the best of intentions, right? But it's okay to not be okay. For the first time in my life, I've reached a point where I don't have to be the strong, independent person that I've always projected myself to be. It's okay for me to be tired, to be frustrated, to not be okay, and to give myself that time to heal, essentially. And so I think that's the one piece of it. Thing that I would like to leave with everyone. It's okay to be in those moments where you need to heal and you need to not be okay and you need to not have it all together. That's the human experience, and it's a blessing. I don't know how this year has impacted everyone, but I just want to send love to everyone. I have nothing but hope for a better future, and I'm thrilled that I was able to be a part of this experience.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. Lisa, what would you add?
It's in the same vein. I call it pulling back the curtain. And so there are people I've worked with professionally, like in my coaching, and friends and family who, specifically women, who are really afraid to tell themselves the truth about themselves. Whatever the shortcoming is, whatever the challenge, whatever the opportunity or gap, it's a hard conversation to have with yourself and to admit that this is what I lack or this is what's needed. But the only way to get better is to look at yourself and to admit whatever it is and find someone who can help bring you up. And so it's kind of in the same vein as Manichan and Julia. Just take a deep look, get quiet or get around noise if that helps you, but really examine yourself and understand, sit still long enough to understand what's missing. Ask those critical questions. What's missing, what's keeping me from moving forward, what's holding me back, and then finding that great old partner to help bring you up.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. Thank you to all three of you. Whew, what an awesome session. Lots of life lessons and lots of goodness in that 60 minutes. If you enjoyed today's discussion, I would like to invite you to follow Genuine Leadership Matters either on LinkedIn, join our community on the website, www.genuineleadershipmatters.com, or there's a Facebook group community where we're actually having a lot of discussion and starting some genuine conversations there as well. Lisa Medley shared that she is in her startup mode. She is fabulous. So if you are looking for an executive coach, I'm going to tell you Lisa is all that plus a little bit more than what you saw today. So visit her at Lisa Medley Executive Coaching on LinkedIn. Lisa, I should have prepared. I didn't. I'm gonna give myself grace, but tell me, there's a website. Is it lisamedleyexecutivecoaching.com or
LinkedIn is good.
LinkedIn is good. It'll get you everywhere else. Okay.
Yep. Get me everywhere else.
Find Lisa. She is amazing and puts out really great content as well. Our next talk I shared is going to be focused on networking and why it's really not an option. It's required for continued and sustained growth. Whether you're in the job market or not, you need to be networking. So that's going to be a really important conversation. That's on July 20th at 9 o'clock. And if you have feedback for this session, please don't hesitate to share it. We want to continue to learn and grow as a community. If you've got suggestions for future conversations you'd like to see, please share that. Just know when we say genuine, we mean genuine. So we are open to all that. So again, my thanks to every last one of you, and those who will be listening to the recording. Thank you. Those things apply to you as well. Mana Chan, Lisa, Julia, thank you so much, and all of our guests. Thank you. Have an amazing weekend.
Thanks, Nancy.
All righty.
Thank you, Nancy. Bye, everyone.
Thanks all.